What's up? This is the Brett Snodgrass Podcast, and thank you guys for joining me on this particular episode. I got two young guys with me today who are killing it in the real estate market in my hometown, Fort Wayne, Indiana. They run a company called LTD Property Group. Their names are Moore and Dakota Bailey. Amazing stories, guys, coming from basically nothing, raising up. They got 60 plus rentals with single families, multi-units. They do a lot of flips, do a couple $1 million a year in flips. But the thing that I think that really amazes me is they are empowering young people within their organization. They are leading them well, not just financially. They talked about a 19-year-old kid making like $170,000 last year, but not just financially, but they're also really interested in leading them spiritually, in their faith, in their health, and financially. So just an amazing couple of young guys that are making an impact in this world. So thank you so much, Tony Moore and Dakota Bailey, for on the podcast. I want to just take this time to tell you guys just about a couple things that we're doing. IronDeep.com. Go over to it. We're putting together a couple of men's retreats this year, and we're actually putting together one at the end of June. It's in northern Georgia in the mountains at this awesome place called Bison View Lodge, and it's going to be just a highly undistracted environment of businessmen getting together for a purpose in Christ and just to really sharpen each other and to grow and build that deep connection with God and each other. So I'm putting this together, guys. IronDeep.com. Go check that out right now. At least sign up for our newsletter each week. You'll get the YouTube channels, videos that are coming out each week. We're putting some videos together, and we're just really want to impact businessmen for the kingdom. And if that's you, I would love to hear you and what you want to hear from Iron Deep. So check that out. So I can't wait to introduce you guys to the guests of today's podcast, Mr. Tony Moore and Dakota Bailey. What's going on, guys?
What up? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks you so much for being here, because I think you're literally the only people I've ever had on the podcast from my hometown. Well, the town I'm in right now is just Fort Wayne, Indiana. Thank you. We need to get more of us on here.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, guys, for being on the show. I am super excited to interview you, a couple of young guys and making their mark in the real estate industry, 60-plus rental properties, mostly single-family and small multi-units, wholesaling company, $7.2 million in assets, $2.6 million in equity, doing a couple $1 million a year in flips. That's just amazing, guys. So congratulations. I love interviewing successful young guys because they bring just this whole new hunger and just perspective to this. So welcome to the podcast. I always like to just kind of start off with this question. Maybe give me your, I'm going to say maybe 3-minute version of, Tony, why don't you take this one? How did you meet Dakota and start this business together?
So the very first time Dakota and I met, I was a lifeguard at a lake, and Dakota came up to me and asked me if I could teach him how to fight because I had a fight club in my backyard. They say that you're not supposed to talk about Fight Club. I was recording the videos and putting them up on YouTube. So some kids around the school knew who I was, and we went from learning and training together to becoming friends and spending a lot of time at each other's houses. And then eventually we kind of split off and did our own thing. I went to college. Dakota went from doing landscaping to into some factory work and stuff, tried some jobs that he didn't necessarily like, tried some that he did like, got into car sales and started doing phenomenal. Dakota is a master salesman. And he actually is a coach for Wealthy Investor, which is our mastermind with Ryan Pineda now. And I went from job to job to job after I got done with college, not necessarily knowing what I wanted to do. I had a little girl. And so I knew that I was staying in Indiana. When I had a child, that grounded me. I'm not with her mom, so at the same time, I have a little bit more freedom because I don't have her all the time. But then also, you know, I would like to get her more at the same time. So there's that dynamic there. But when I opened Rich Dad Poor Dad one day, read half the book, didn't have the money to buy it, came back, read the other half, in Barnes and Noble. And that little light bulb, I was already into personal development, but Dakota got into personal development too, because I mean, sales is huge. You gotta know yourself. So Dakota was doing personal development, read Think and Grow Rich, got a lot out of that book, had mentors and friends and stuff pumping him up. And so we were both kind of like throttling up our mental thermostat as far as what was on our horizon, what was on our radar. You know, they talk about reticular activating system. All of a sudden we saw and heard about this flipping seminar that was coming to town, and that was Fortune Builders with Than Merrill.
Mm-hmm.
They got a lot of bad publicity at the same time as having some great publicity. But we went and checked that out, and we're like, wow, it's doable. And then we still didn't do anything for like maybe a year and a half. Dakota thought about buying a property, and I talked him out of it. And a handful of his friends talked him out of it. He's like, why did I let you guys talk me out of my house? But we eventually got to the point where we started a company, and we went to some of the sheriff sales and noticed that all of the other like angry kind of win-lose millionaires were there from the car dealerships and that sort of thing. And so we went a different direction and decided to throw down some bandit signs back when that worked, like 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And got a call, got an awesome deal on a property. And then I got really chicken and wanted to back out. Dakota called me and said, hey, I'll put in your portion of the money so that you can be an equal partner in this. There were 3 of us at the time. And so Dakota kind of saved me and kept me in the company, even though I was ready to bail. So wow. I'm super thankful to have a friend that great. And I mean, fast forward all that, we just started picking up properties in like the rougher part of town. Mm-hmm. Until we developed our skills and got used to the process and created strategies and spreadsheets. And then with the masterminds that we've been in from Arate, Ed Milet, you know, some of those guys are really inspiring to Dakota. He's got the Arate shirt on today. And the Future Flipper Mastermind that's now changed to Wealthy Investor. They just rebranded to turn into a $1 billion company from multi-million-dollar company. From all of the seminars that we've been to, we acquired all this knowledge to scale. So we've hired a lot of people. How many people do we have in the office now?
6 or 7.
We have like 6 or 7 people who work for us consistently, including a couple W-2s. And then on top of that, we've got a property management company, Airbnb, manager, all that sort of thing to make sure that you can, you know, delegate, automate, eliminate stuff that's not working, and use our time in the most dollar per hour way possible.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tony. It's just crazy. You know, things that I heard was you couldn't even afford the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Like with $15, you had to go back to the Barnes and Noble store and read it halfway through. Now here you are, millions of dollars into this business, really just in a relatively short amount of time. Dakota, you went up to Tony. You wanted to learn how to fight. Right. So like, yeah, I'm just thinking about like your mindset, because right then and there, I'm like, you seem like you just really wanted to grow. Like you wanted to learn something new and grow in that. And you've had these mentors in your life, Ed Milet, you talked about some of these other mastermind groups. So talk about like, you know, your story into this too. Like what maybe is the same twist or into real estate? Talked about like your mindset, I think, because I think you're the one, if I would look at both of you guys, you're the one that really kept this thing going from the beginning, right? You're the one that said, no, I'm going to bring you in. I'm going to pour into you. And talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I guess I'd have to go back to high school. So I was always very defiant, and I like didn't listen to teachers because whenever I heard them, I was like, dude, you guys have no idea what you're doing. You're going to tell me what to do with my life. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But the interesting thing is like I did well in school. I got A's and B's, but I was kicked out most of the time. So everybody thought I was like failing, like not doing well. All the teachers were like, you're going to end up in jail. Like they just really thought the worst of me, even though they're like, you got so much potential and you're just going to waste it. But really, I just didn't want to do what they wanted me to do. So I've always been kind of defiant, which a lot of people saw as a negative thing, which I think it's actually served me in a lot of ways as long as you can learn how to control it. So from there, I got out of high school, started just working physical labor, working 60 hours a week. And I knew I always wanted to own my own business. So I started landscaping. I was like, this is it. Well, after working like 60, 70 hours a week to where I couldn't see anymore, and then finding out that I couldn't get ahead and I needed a job every winter, which ended up like, ended up being in factories, mechanics, stuff like that. I was like, dude, this is not working.
Mm.
So then I ended up getting in car sales from there. Then like I developed my skills and just did really well in car sales. So like that was like the big aha moment for me. Is I started reading self-development books, and then I started really developing myself and my ability to talk to people. And then like my first year in sales, I made $84,000. Then it went to 96, then it went to 160, then it went to 140. So I started making like good money, but then I didn't really have a whole lot of time. About my third year in, that was when Tony told me to read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. He was in college and he was reading those books, and he's like, "Oh man, I read this book. It was amazing. You should read this book." And that really helped me to realize, like, okay, I came from nothing. I thought six figures, that was the ticket. You make six figures, bam, you're
done.
freaking rich. You made it. Like now you're good. Now you don't have to work hard anymore.
Right.
And I found that once then like I was working still 60, 70 hours a week. I had to work every single Saturday, and I usually worked 6 days a week. And I was married at the time, and it took so much of my time with it. And like obviously it's my choice, but at the same time I spent so much time in it that I actually lost my wife. So she left me because I wasn't like giving her the time and attention that she wanted or deserved. So from there, I was like, okay, there's got to be another way to still make money and to still have my time. And then after reading that book, that was really the ticket. Also, I felt like that put words to what I already felt, because again, like the Rich Dad Poor Dad talks a lot about how he loves to learn, but he doesn't like education, like the educational system. And so then I'm like, okay, that makes a lot more sense to me, because it was very confusing to me how I never read a book in high school. Then after I get out of high school, I'm devouring books, just learning like crazy. So it's just interesting to me that I always thought that if I didn't like school, I didn't like to learn, when that wasn't the case. So Rich Dad Poor Dad really put words to what I already felt, which was you can make a lot of money, have time, and continue growth without liking the system and the constraints that they kind of put you in. So
Yeah.
that really like helped me with just figuring out myself, and then like knowing that there's other people out there that are like me, that like to learn, that want to grow. And last thing that I'll say about growth is that I think a lot of people feel as if once you graduate high school or once you get a diploma or something, that growth stops, when really I don't believe that. I believe that growth is a continuous thing that we're always going to continue to do, and that we should do. But a lot of people feel as if, oh, I got this degree, now I'm smart, now I've made it, now I no longer have to continue this, when I think that's like the opposite of what we should really be doing. But I think that the school system kind of puts you in that, where once you achieved a certain level, then you've made it.
No, I love that. I mean, I just take me back to reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he talked about the education system. And I have kids. I got 4 kids, and I'm thinking about, their education, and they're in school. And I think it just goes back to school forces you to learn stuff that maybe you're not interested in, right? They force you to read certain types of books that maybe you don't want to read. But when you start reading books that you were really interested in, it was like, that's where the ticket is. Oh, you want to learn because you're actually interested in what you're learning about, right?
Sometimes I read books, I'm like, dude, this is dry as crap and I hate it. Yeah. But I know that it's going to benefit me so much, like taxes. Like if you read a book about taxes, it sucks.
Yeah.
But it's going to benefit you.
It does, yeah. But then sometimes I'm the same way. I don't like learning about all that stuff. But when I find this little ticket, this little nugget, I'm like, oh, I mean, I'm going to save $30K or something in taxes, which means I'm going to make $30,000 more dollars. Then it's like, oh, this is awesome. So talk to us about your business, Tony. You guys started off buying in areas of Fort Wayne, Indiana, and some of the rougher areas that you talked about. But just in a relatively short amount of time, you got 60 plus rentals. You've done some small multifamily units. What's kind of your strategy and your goal? Seems like you guys are doing very aggressive active income, but you're really building wealth. Is that kind of what you guys are looking at? And tell us about your strategy and a couple young guys doing this.
Yeah, what our original strategy was to leverage debt to buy rental properties. And we figured we could plan on maybe like $150 a month of cash flow based on the really good prices that we were able to buy these properties at. Dakota is fantastic at sales. I'm pretty dang good at marketing. And so we're able to find great deals. People are like, how are you buying properties for half of what they're worth? That's impossible. And then even banks were letting us know that, like, yeah, I don't think you can buy a property for less than what it's worth. And then after about a year of us buying them consistently for half of what they're worth and the appraisals coming back, they're like, these guys are different. We're going to create like different products for them because they're doing something different, novel, interesting, that sort of thing. But our business trajectory has been an exponential relationship, like a vert ramp if you're into skateboarding, where or a hockey stick, right? Where for like the first 2 years, I was still working jobs making $11 an hour, $12 an hour, $13 an hour. Dakota was still working car sales. We hadn't created consistent mechanisms to continually bring us deals, like consistent marketing.
Mm.
So once we implemented, actually, Dakota said, dude, you spend all this time applying for jobs, going to the job, hating the job, quitting 3 months later. Stop doing that and just figure out how to make the company money. And I was like, I'm going to drown us. Like, if I don't figure out how to make us some money, we're going to go under. I don't want to lose everything that we've got. Like, I don't want to lose all 3 houses that we've got.
Yeah, which is, but it's a lot. I mean, you know, you're used to making $11 an hour. I mean, that's your mindset too. You're like, gosh, I mean, when I first started, I was substitute school teaching. I think I made $12,000 a year. So I get it. It's like 3 houses is a lot. Maybe it's not a lot to you now, but to the normal person, it is. So anyway, sorry to interrupt you, but keep going.
So we went from me quitting and starting full-time into the business to me kind of figuring out how to get us like one big deal that was like 20 grand. And we were like, wow, I hope that I can keep it up. And then
that was in the first 2 weeks too. The first week or two that Tony quit, he went and locked up a deal that made us like $13,000 or $15,000. I was like, all right, that's half. Now we're good for 6 months.
Yeah, I just replaced my income in 6 months. Yeah, that's crazy.
And then my mom started working for us full time shortly after. Basically during COVID, she was no longer needed as a nanny because the parents had to stay home. And so my mom started writing us letters. So she would handwrite the people's name and their address in, and we would send these letters out, and we've kept that up consistently. But as soon as she started doing that, we had some consistent call flow coming in. Mm-hmm. We would answer phone calls. And so Dakota kept working in car sales, and we were using his W-2 income in order to cash out refinance immediately. We were finding the banks that would allow us to do an immediate cash out refinance. He would fund the business as a private money lender occasionally, and then we would get an appraisal on the property, and we would buy it so well that they would give us all of our money back and then some. We would pay Dakota back, put some money in the bank, go find the next one. Mm-hmm. And we did that as a consistent strategy. And then we got this accumulation, like this incredible accumulation of rental properties and this equity, and we were feeling good about ourselves. And we looked at our cash flow and we're like, why are we not making very much money? Mm. And I think at that time we had invested in various forms of education. One of the best seminars that you should go to, Brett, and everybody watching should go to, we're bringing it to Fort Wayne. It's called PSI seminars. They have them all across the U.S., but that was like the red pill. It was like the eye-opening experience in the matrix where you become aware of everything, your subconscious limiting beliefs. And it's undeniable because the way that you experience it is through doing. So you get to basically participate in some things that are sort of like social experiments, but they don't tell you the moral of the story. And so because of our personal development stuff, that's how we've maintained our friendship too and continue to grow exponentially. And then we joined Arate, and Ed Milet got on one time and said, do you know what the most important thing in business is? And everybody was like, sales, marketing, He was like, it's scaling. Mm. And don't just hire one person, hire two, because if you've got one, you've got none. If you've got two, you at least have one while the other one's out sick or on vacation or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that sort of inspired us to start taking steps toward owning a business that actually generates massive amounts of income so that way we can deploy that income strategically into things that are going to grow us as people, grow the company, help us build out systems, get organized, that sort of thing. And so I think it was like year 3.5 when all of a sudden we started accumulating massive amounts of rentals. Right around when COVID hit, we thought that maybe everything was going down, but actually everything took off. People just wanted to get rid of their rental properties. People stopped paying rent, and we took over a lot of those properties. And then when we focused on flipping, that's when we started to generate significant income. That was I would say that's last year.
It was about 2 years ago. So it was when I left in April. So that was when we also joined Ryan Pineda's program about 2.5 years ago, who is a significant game changer for us because we followed Ryan Dawsey, who I'm sure you know.
Mm-hmm.
We followed him and we were just like Tony said, doing his strategy. We're like, dude, this is the way we want in his program.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we ended up joining Ryan Pineda's, who's more about flipping. And then he just kept saying, dude, you got to start flipping and wholesaling more. Or he said flipping at the time that we decided to wholesale and flip. He just kept saying, no, dude, you got to stop with this rental bull crap. We're like, no, you don't get it. It's Indiana. We're buying these houses for $25,000 that are written out for $700. It's a no-brainer. And then he's like, no, it's not. You need to freaking like start flipping and wholesaling and generating some serious revenue and build a business here. So then when I quit my job of April of 2021 is really when we started hiring people. And that was when we started switching from, okay, well, now we can't just keep doing these rentals and like stacking away money and building equity and not actually making any money. We need to make some serious money now because like I'm about to leave and I want to get paid too. And then also like this is not like it's working okay, but it's more of a retirement plan. It's not going to replace our income. Yeah. So we just over from passive to like, okay, we're going to do a business that's active, but then we want to be passive in it because we train people instead of doing it the rental way.
Yeah. So Dakota, speak on that a little bit more because you said the game changed when you really started bringing in active income. And a lot of people, they look at real estate and they want to build this wealth and they just want to buy these rentals and they just want to keep stacking them. And you guys are doing that and seemed like you weren't getting ahead. The game changed when you started to build that extremely active income, which I think is just brilliant and super important, and I want to speak into that. I got a lot of real estate investors listening to this, so talk to us about why did the game change with that, and how did it change?
Yeah, it was specifically because one, like when I was quitting, like I was like, dude, I was making $100,000. It's not like I needed it, like because I have really low expenses. My house payment is $850. My car payment, I actually paid it off and I refinanced to pull out the equity to actually make more money with it. But it's like $300. So like altogether, I spent like $1,000. I have no credit card debt or anything, but I'm still used to that level of income. So I'm like, man, if I'm making $100,000, I want to continue to make that. Yeah. So in order for us to make that, we have to actually make money. We can't live off these rentals because they really don't spit out any cash flow or anything. It just builds our net worth. It's depreciation, it's write-offs. Mm-hmm. And then Ryan Pineda honestly was a huge influence on us to change our mindset of like, okay, this is not the way, guys. Like it's one way and it's great for depreciation, but that's the reason that the wealthy use it. It's not for actual cash flow or anything, especially the way that we do it. We refinance out, we pull out all of our equity. We don't make a whole lot of money yet whenever it's like after, all of the expenses and stuff. You think you do, and then something goes wrong because we're like, all right, we fix them up, we make them nice, we do all this stuff up front, we do all the maintenance, and then it's going to be fine. Yeah. But then we decided, okay, let's start flipping and doing this. And then I found that I really actually like building that too. And I think Tony does. It's more fun, but also like developing people and having like that camaraderie and like just getting people around you who are similar mindset for me is very important. And actually feels like it's one of my gifts. So I believe in God. And I believe that God gives us gifts that we're supposed to use in order to like help other people or whatever your gift is. Sometimes it's not to help other people. Most of the time I would say that it probably is. And mine is like, I feel like it's to empower people. It's like, okay, hey, I see something in you that you maybe don't see in yourself or you do, you just don't have the belief or the confidence in order to do it. And then I know what they're capable of. And so then it's like helping them to actually pull that out and develop it. That's something that I feel like is one of my gifts is like lending my belief in somebody when maybe they don't actually have it themselves. And so then like I get to use my gifts in order to get people in certain spots. And then now, like last year, we had some people, every single person that works for us made the most money they've ever made in their entire life. So like that was like the most exciting thing ever. And then our goal is to get every single person to be able to make 6 figures this year. And we just set them up for a win-win to where we have a similar vision to where as they grow, we grow. So we have to structure it just right to where like they can't outdo us because otherwise the company goes under and then we all lose. Yeah. But if we can get aligned with the visions and then help them to develop themselves to grow, it's going to grow our business, it's going to grow them. And like we work on growing people as individuals, not necessarily just growing the business. Like we want everything to be aligned for them, their health, their spirituality, their relationships, and the business, which I know a lot of people talk about. Don't get in all that stuff and like, don't worry about them. But like for us, it's more about the people than necessarily the business. Like we want to align our visions where we're going because the people that are here, they want to be here. And we actually just had a meeting. We have a meeting every morning and they said that like, this doesn't feel like a job. And that doesn't mean that we don't perform at a high level because we are performing at a high level, but it doesn't feel like it because we're working towards our goals, our dreams. And whenever you're making progress towards those, I really feel like it doesn't feel like work at that point.
I,
I
I
love
wanted
that.
to I wanted to say too that for viewers out there, just so you guys know, we delayed gratification for a minute, and so that we had the ability to bargain with our future. We also created a really good foundation. And Dakota and I don't pay ourselves that much. We leave the generous portion of the money in the company. We pay ourselves 5% each of the net profit of our flips,
Mm,
plus a small salary. It's like $500
A
a
week.
week.
mm,
So
wow.
26K plus 5% of net profit is what Dakota and I make from the company,
Mm,
while usually 60-70% of the money goes back into the company so that we can afford to
great.
do research and development, try different marketing tactics, invest in our sales. We just got Dakota and the guys just got back from a 10X boot camp. I'm flying out to Hawaii to do some spiritual stuff. We're going to 10X Growth Con after that. We have we we keep saying that we're going to slow down on seminars, and then the next best one pops up, and we're like, gotta go.
Yeah, our acquisitions guy made more money than what we did last year. Actually, a couple of them did, which is awesome. Like for us, for me, it's awesome. Obviously, our net worth went up significantly because we structured it correctly, but it's
Mhm.
still pretty cool that we can pay them. I don't even know how we paid them. We have a 19-year-old kid made $177,000 last year.
Wow.
Dude, I don't even know how we paid that. That's more than I've ever made in sales ever.
Yeah.
And that was his first year in sales, first full year. So yeah, we're just super, super proud and super happy that we're able to support people and actually pay people that much money.
Yeah. That's awesome because it's so crazy when you really think about things, because you think about this world and then you think about the other worlds where you guys came from. I think about my teaching world. Like, my parents were both teachers growing up. I think the most money my dad made was 60 grand a year, for example, after 33 years. A lot of even CEOs are making 120, and which is great. 120, 150K, which is a really nice chunk. And then you get this 19-year-old kid who comes in and makes more than that. And that it's just a crazy world that you've opened up. And I love you guys' growth mindset. I want to ask a really quick question, and I think I want to direct this towards Dakota on this one particularly. So, you guys, I think, start off with 3 people, right? You guys are partnerships, co-owners in this particular company, and seems like you guys balance each other out. Dakota, I think that you've really had to help Tony with some things, with his mindset at the start. But you guys have been able to really maintain this. There's probably been some bumps in the road, but can you just speak into the partners out there? And it doesn't have to be business partners either. I think whenever you're in a partnership, it's kind of like you're in this. It's almost like a marriage, right? You're in this and you're doing these different things. You got to make these big decisions. Talk to us about this, and how do you guys maintain a healthy partnership?
Yeah. So what I've been searching this actually just because obviously, like I said, I was divorced before. And I thought about what is it that is actually making a good partnership or a good connection with people. And what I've found, and the reason why Tony and I are such good friends and have been such good friends, is the authenticity.
Mm,
So just being transparent of sometimes Tony says some stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's stupid. That was some bull crap. Or I
mm,
don't like the way that you're talking to me or something. We're able to speak to that. And we do it in a respectful way, of course, but we're able to be authentic with how we feel and not like, hey, dude, you're dumb. And I can't believe you said that. It's more like, I can understand and appreciate where you're coming from. Here's my perspective, or this is the way that I feel about this whenever you say those things. So to me, I think the most important thing is authenticity, because if you feel like you have to suppress who you are, in order to make somebody happy, I think that you can only do that for so long.
mm,
And whether you're in a partnership, whether you're in a marriage, or whether you're in just in friendships in general, I want the people who work for us or Tony, our partnership, to be again aligned with where we're going. If you don't want to do it anymore, that's okay. I need to know right now, because I think what really happens is you change your mind about where you wanted to go, and now you're just putting on this picture and then trying to make the other person happy, and you're not even all into the freaking what you said you're all in. So the people that work for us are all in, and if they're not, that's okay. Just be authentic with it. So
mm,
I really think that authenticity is what has helped our relationship stay strong, is
mm.
because we're not scared to share exactly how we're feeling,
Yeah.
which is hard sometimes, but we do it.
And
Yeah.
we've learned from things like neuro-linguistic programming too. It's the words that you choose. Dakota did this before he learned, before he took these courses and things. He would always say we. Even when he did something, it was always we. Anytime something bad happens in the company, it's always we. And so it was leadership and it was language, like the language that you use. And even when you're feeling a disagreement with somebody, like using the I language, coming from responsible, understanding yourself and being emotionally intelligent, the words that you choose to express yourself are ultimately what the other person ends up absorbing. Like if you're giving off negative energy, make sure that it's like, I am feeling this negative energy, not like it is your fault.
Right. Yeah. It's not like, hey, you made me feel this. No, you didn't make me feel anyway. I'm experiencing this. I felt this way. I felt like when you did this, it made me feel like this. Because then it's not a debate. It's not about like, well, you shouldn't feel like that. Okay, well, I do. So like, I'm sorry that I feel that way. But like when you did this, this made me feel like that. It's not saying that he made me feel that way. It's not like a forceful kind of thing where it's a blame. So yeah, that's something that we always work on.
I think it probably really helps you guys. You guys both have this consistent growth mindset, and going to these different seminars, I'm sure you're picking up these different things, and maybe you're in a rut, but when you go to these different seminars and you get some breakthrough, you kind of bring it home, and I think that just really helps you guys navigate through it. You're constantly growing. Tony, I'll ask you this. You sound like your company has this amazing culture. People want to work there. They don't feel like it's a job, which really speaks to your leadership. And I think both of you guys in your leadership. So how do you lead well, really in this culture? And you talk about this 19-year-old kid, which a lot of times people get pessimistic on some of the younger generations on, they just label them in a certain way. So how do you guys lead your team so well? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, Dakota's the primary leader. I like to operate mostly at home. So my office is at home, but something that Dakota started implementing is he received some coaching, and his coach was basically gave us a format for meetings. So once a month we sit down with everybody. We ask them 1 through 10 in your experience of the other people working here. Give everyone a 1 through 10 rating on how you feel they are in regards to work, being here, getting things done, being positive, being just their beingness. How do they show up, 1 through 10? And then also something that's very important to Dakota and I, that we would probably terminate someone very quickly. Like, I don't know, for some reason, it's extremely annoying to not have someone do what they say they're going to do. So 1 through 10, how likely are you to get the task done that we asked? And if you didn't get it done, did you at least let someone know? 1 through 10, how likely is it that you're going to get the task done? And just doing that one activity. So on one hand, I'll say we want autonomy. We want people to be able to govern themselves, do whatever they want. We got a ping pong thing. Like the dudes play ping pong like 2 hours a day. And they have fun and they look forward to it. And something else that we add in, so as well as this this thing that's seemingly judgmental, we have autonomy here, we have feedback here, but somewhere in the middle is gratitude. So we have gratitude journals. That was something else that Dakota implemented, where people talk about the 3 things yesterday that were great for them, and everybody kind of listens and gets to absorb that energy of things that they were grateful for that happened yesterday. 3 things are grateful for today. 1 thing, or was it 3 things that would make today great? And then your I am statements, all of the things that you're feeling, your beingness, all the things that are motivating you right now. There's a quote of the day. I can't remember the other one. I think there's like one other thing, but that structure, that little bit of structure, just gets everybody in an attitude of gratitude and gives people feedback on where they stand. And Dakota pointed out too that it's interesting how 1 through 10 is a subjective thing, but oftentimes people will fall on the same number when they're thinking of a person in their head. We're all within 1/2 a point, 0.5 to 1 of each other as we go around the room. And so it's not just subjective. It's also like an energy Like you can experience it
Mm.
and it's fairly reliable, even though it's not something tangible.
Yeah.
So when you guys do this real quick, just a quick logistical question. Do you do this publicly, like where you do give people 1 through 10, or is this something they do on their own? They give it to you guys, or do they go around and say, Tony, I think Tony's like a 6.
Yep.
He's,
It's
yeah.
public. It's all of us in the room, and then you rate yourself and 2 to 3 reasons of why you rated yourself that way, and then you go and rate each person 2 to 3 reasons of why you rate them that way as well. And then one other thing that I want to talk about, leadership. It's interesting how leadership is a balance of structure, but then also freedom, because people have to be free in order to actually be with you. Because if you're forcing them to do something, that's not a leader, that's a manager. So it's interesting though. But if you're saying, hey, go do whatever you want, you provide no structure. I think that's a poor leadership as well. So it's providing the structure in order to get done what we need to get done that's going to help them accomplish that, but then still having them have the freedom of choice. They can say whatever they want, they can do it. So I think good leadership, and this is the same in relationships, it's creating structure. And like I've noticed that in my life is like, I just want things like, let's say it's like, something spiritual. Like you're like, oh man, I don't want to force myself to read the Bible because now it doesn't feel like I'm actually doing it. Or I don't want to force myself to pray, or I don't want to schedule sex or anything like stuff that is important. It's important to actually create the structure for it. And I used to like always want to just be organic and nice and all this other things. And like people just do what they're supposed to do. But
Spontaneous.
Yeah, it's supposed to be spontaneous and all these things, but I think that it's very important to create the structure for it. It doesn't matter how it gets done. It matters like, that it gets done. And I think that's what real leadership is too. And then one last thing that I'll add to what we do to create accountability is we do go over. So this is something that my coach, I don't remember where I actually got the one thing where it's about the scale 1 to 10. That was not from my coach. I don't remember where I thought about that. Maybe, I don't know. But from my coach, he actually talked about your spiritual, your relation, your health, and then your business, and basically create different goals for that. 2 to 3 goals that you're going to have within a year, 2 years. Then what we do is we break it down to our standards. So that's going to be your daily action that you're going to take in order to get closer to those. And then what we do is we wrote all of those down for each other. And then every single week we go over, hey, did you hit it? Did you get your goals every single day? And I have to text my coach by 5 p.m. on Fridays, and I text him every single time. But then also on Mondays, we go over, did you guys all hit your goals? So now we're holding them accountable for their spiritual, for their health, for their relationships, and for business. So like, that's what I mean is like, it's not all just one. Like we want them to be a full human being and have the full life experience to the best of their abilities. And we're going to help hold them accountable and help them grow, because that's one of our core values is growth mindset. If you're not interested in growing, we don't want you to work for us.
Wow. Man, that's awesome. I mean, this podcast is just game changer. I think you guys are going way beyond what other leaders are doing in their organizations, and really, really appreciate that. And I think that's why people love working for you. It's like, hey, it's great for this 19-year-old kid to make, 160, 70K, but he's also growing in his health. He's growing in his other areas of life, in his family life or his spiritual life. So that's awesome. So congrats. So I'll just, final question. Yeah, where do you guys see yourself, Tony? Where are you guys going in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think the original goal was to have 80 properties, and we've almost hit that. But that was like residual income. And then at some point we were like, oh, we'll just, fire everybody, I guess.
Right, yeah. We made it. Yeah, here we go.
So one of the ultimate goals is freedom. And we keep pushing that back a little bit in order to make room for other people and their visions as well. The thing is, we need to have a big enough vision in order to fit everybody else's vision and what they want for their lives inside of that. And so that's one of the reasons why scaling is so important too. And so that's something that I'm still working on, is like my 5-year vision. Ideally, I'd like to be retired in 5 years, which doesn't mean that I'm going to stop working. Just means that I'm going to have exponentially less hours thinking, developing, and researching and problem solving with business activities. And I'll be able to do more things like coaching. I think that I really would like to do a lot more neurolinguistic programming, helping people blow out their baggage, eliminate limiting beliefs. A lot of people have parts that they need integrated, like part of them feels this way, part of them feels that way, but they don't realize that they're whole people. You got to accept all of the parts of yourself and appreciate the attributes and contributions that each part brings to you becoming the best version of yourself. And so I think the vision is to teach other people how to do it and to go after bigger deals too. Maybe large multifamily storage. We're open to almost any investment that makes sense and creates more abundance and more freedom. And then I still have a part to integrate because part of me is like, oh, it'd be like really cool to like have a Porsche. And then there's another part of me that's like, I could like bless so many more people if I just took all the money that I was going to put into that Porsche and just like sent them to some of the seminars that we do. Like I sponsored 13 people last year to go to this seminar because they told me the money was the thing holding them back. And I was like, $600 is not as much money as you think, because I guarantee you, if you drop your iPhone in the water, you're going to buy an $1,100 phone tomorrow. So
true.
yeah,
True.
that's my vision.
Yeah, no, I love it. Dakota, what about you, man?
Yeah, mine is probably very similar. Where it's just, yeah, step one is freedom. And that's been an interesting dynamic now with bringing more people on, because along with bringing on team members, it's helping them to achieve their dreams. And sometimes that's at a sacrifice maybe for my own. And so I was planning on moving out to Phoenix actually this last year. And then I found that if I left, then I think it would change the culture and stuff. So it's just implementing that and then not feeling like I'm letting the team down at the same time. So that's an interesting dynamic. It was like, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something about like responsibility takes away your rights. And so like, that's what I found is like, okay, like now I feel more responsible for these people, and it's kind of taking away my like freedom in some ways. But so it's just figuring that out and then hiring somebody maybe to replace me who can hopefully do it better. Or like just, yeah, figuring that part out. That's step one, freedom. And then second would be like, yeah, helping other people do this. I mean, we just bought the Fort Wayne RIA. So now we're starting to host those events. So we just want to teach other people to do the same exact thing, because we believe that everybody can be free. And I think that real estate is one of the best ways to do it. And then I want to do business coaching, like, you know, just the same way that my business coach is helping me hold accountable. I think that I'm very good at that. I'm very good at helping people hold them accountable. And then also like with consistent results, like that's what I've gotten really good at, is being very consistent. Like, in anything that I have done, I've just been ultra consistent. I'm not the best. I don't have like the most intensity. And I always say consistency beats intensity. And so that's something that I tell myself, and I'm able to hold people accountable at another level because I hold myself at a very high accountability. So then I'm able to help other people to reach things that maybe they didn't like think that they could reach, or that they knew they could reach. They just haven't had somebody to help push them along the way. So that's really what I want to do, is help as many people as I can on as big of a scale as I possibly can. Because that's always the hard part, is finding out how big do we want to go. But I also feel like it's my responsibility with the gifts that God's given me to like go and give them back and do as big as I possibly can. So it's finding that balance of, okay, how big do I want to take this, but then still be able to live my life, because I can't fill from an empty cup. So
yeah, I love that. I just keep hearing like, you guys want to grow, you want to scale, but you want to do it very responsibly. And the other thing I just keep hearing is you guys want to impact people. You guys want to help people, empower people, give. You want to coach people, teach them what you've learned. You guys are doing an awesome job. So I appreciate you being on this podcast today, man. It's awesome. Wish you guys so much success. And I hope that, we get more people like you that, lead teams, that they give just opportunities for these people, just like your team, and people you're going to impact in the future. So thank you so much, Tony, Dakota. Awesome to have you on the show, man.
yeah, thank you, man.
Thank you.